What's up, y'all? It's Bree, and I am the creator of all things. And today we're going to be talking about gear. Yes, a lot of you have been asking. I'm not gatekeeping, I promise. So today we're going to talk about gear and some of the things that I like to use in my shoots. So first off, we have the camera body. All right, so the camera that I use is the 5D Mark II. This is a really great camera. It has a lot of really cool settings on it, but for the most part, I usually just use manual because I like to have full control whenever I am shooting. Then I also like how I can always transition into a different setting really easily with this camera. It's still pretty lightweight, and it has some pretty interesting connections here that I actually haven't fully used yet, but we'll play around with that later. Next, we have one of my go-to lenses. This is the Canon lens 85 millimeter. This baby right here, it's so sharp and it's so clean. The shots that I've gotten from this are insane, but I will say sometimes it's not always the best in certain settings, which I've kind of had to learn like based on trial and error. But yeah, so the 85 mil is pretty nice, very smooth. It's not a cheap lens. I feel like the smaller and like all the prime lenses, they're not cheap. Like these guys, you gotta work for these, but it's so worth it, and it's worth the investment. Lens 2 is going to be my 24 to 70 millimeter. I believe this is, yep, 1.4. I really like this lens for like wide angle images, especially like when I'm outside. I feel like this absorbs really good outside. But it also does pretty well in studio as well. It really just depends on like what you're shooting. This is a good lens if you're looking for something with like some range, not too much fuss in between like having to switch from like an 85 to this. I feel like overall this one is pretty good. This has been my main lens that I use the most recently. At one point I was like switching between these, and I was just like, okay, you gotta pick. You gotta pick, because when you're working, you don't always have time to switch from one lens to the other. And honestly, it can get kind of annoying. And there's been some times where I've almost dropped one of these lenses. So that was scary. And the glass in these are not cheap. So yeah, so I have the Canon 24 to 70. I have it set. It has this setting on here where you can set it to macro, but I've never like played with that too much. I really just I feel like it's creator's choice, right? It just depends on what you're looking for, what you see through the lens, and what kind of captures your eye. Next, I have, so the 50 millimeter is already attached to my camera right now, but the 50 milliliter lens is honestly like the best beginner lens you can have. It's really good on like really sharp detail shots, and it's also amazing on like wide angle shots, but you just have to kind of step pretty far, sometimes pretty far back to get certain shots depending on like what you're trying to grasp. But honestly, if you're a photographer just starting out, or if you want to upgrade from that kit lens, which is Jesus, we'll talk about that later. But if you're looking to upgrade from that to something better, I highly recommend the 50 millimeter lens. Honestly, we go way back, and this lens been holding me down for a very long time before I upgraded to any of my other lenses. It's also very budget friendly, which is another reason why I believe I loved it so much. I'm the type of girl, I like to, you know, spread the coins, you know, make sure stuff is worth what I'm investing. And especially when you're getting into DSLR gear, it can get very expensive very quickly. So I have my 50 millimeter lens. It's usually, I would say it's an easier go-to in terms of just kind of like out and about. If I'm just kind of wanting to shoot that day, something fun and creative, it's very, very easy to just kind of grab and go with this. You don't have to fuss too much with like the focal length or anything. And I feel like it lets you play around a little bit more with the camera settings that you have in this. But yeah, 50 millimeter lens. If you're looking for something budget friendly, I believe these are about like around 150-ish maybe. It's definitely under $200, so you can get it used or brand new. Either way, you're good to go. Woo! First off, I'm telling on myself because you can tell how long it's been since I've used this lens. We're gonna dust that off later. It's time to clean the lenses. But this is my 70 to 200 one. It's the 1.4. I actually haven't used this lens, I'll be honest, in a minute. But what I can say is I feel like this is more of a, I don't want to say paparazzi lens because I feel like paparazzi kind of creepy, but this is definitely a great lens for trying to get shots like from far away, or if you do like a lot of landscape shots. This your friend. This is your friend. This lens is really nice. I've mostly just used it for like landscape shots. I've used it here and there for events that were like really large, but it was just too much. And honestly, like walking around with it attached to my camera body is just like, it just feels awkward. And for me, I'm like, the shorter, the lighter, the better for me. I believe I've used this lens though for sports. This lens is really good for sports. I used to shoot my brother's football games in high school with this and another lens, probably my 50 or my kit lens, one of those. I used to shoot his football games, and woohoo, those action shots you can get, beautiful. So that sums up my gear, what I love to use. I don't always use all of these all the time. Sometimes it really just depends on like what type of photography I'm focusing on or what I'm shooting. But I would highly recommend getting the 50 millimeter lens, especially like I said, if you're a beginner, just to get started out. But yeah, so thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, be sure to subscribe, share to your boss besties, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.